Awesome. We're gonna get started with the meeting. With Stantec, he's gonna go over urban park renovation.
Yes, thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. So I'm Brad Cowan. I'm a principal with Stantec, Community Development and Urban Design. With me is Haley. Would you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Haley Yell. I am a landscape designer and urban planner with Stantec.
I'm Noah Burke. I'm with Stantec also, and I'm a senior urban planner. However, I don't forget us.
And so, again, thank you guys very much for being here tonight. We want to have this as an interactive as possible. So the intent tonight is to listen and learn for us. We're at a very early stage of the project. So this is for us, the moment when we really listen and we seek your input. We've set up 3 boards here tonight. 2 of them are very interactive. The first one is understanding the site itself and the project scope. This is Urban Park shown here in the plan. The project that we're really focusing on tonight falls within this boundary. It largely focuses on courts, accessibility, and some landscape improvements within that area. The next board, these are challenges and opportunities that we're seeing out on the site. So this was done from our initial site visits, our walk-arounds, technical data that we received, and other information here. This by no means is represents a design at this point. So this is just kind of what we've observed. What we would like for you guys to do is take a look at this, look at our observations here. The red is what we see as a constraint, and the green highlights what we see as an opportunity on the park. We have some interactive areas on this plan itself. At the front, we have some sticky notes and some pens. And what we would like you to do is kind of just take a look at it, tell us what's working and what isn't. Additionally here, and Haley and Noah will also be here to answer questions and kind of walk you through this, and we'll absolutely go through all of it. But on the courts themselves, accessibility, and the other ideas that you have for the park. So despite us focusing on this area within the boundary, we also want to know your input. What's working in the park and what isn't. So the greater park itself. And that's going to help inform what we do here and also future planning. So with that being said, this is not really a speech and me telling you about your park. This is for you guys to tell us what's working, what isn't. Yes, absolutely.
Can you tell us what the directions you've been given? Is the intent to build more courts, or I'm not clear about what your assignment is?
Absolutely. And that's a great question. So our focus is to look at the site within the boundary, the existing courts. We know that they're in disrepair. The lighting is in good shape. That was recently done for the courts. The courts themselves are in disrepair. So without a doubt, these courts would be replaced. That's part of our scope here, is to redesign that. It is also to make them accessible. We're at a point right now, once we redesign and add new elements to the park, all those elements have to be accessible. The site itself is very steep, as you guys know, and the courts, the wall ball courts, the picnic area, the basketball court, all those are within our scope. The sidewalks that connect it and the landscape around it.
When you're talking about all the courts in your scope, are you including the sand volleyball court in that scope?
We are.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're looking at it, is one enough? Is one too much? These are the kind of questions right now that we're looking at. Do we need more?
I think we have like 8 people here that would say 1 court is minimum, but.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The restrooms will remain, but the paving around it bring everything up to code and make it accessible will be improved.
I'd like to read a comment into it while we're at that point. I have one person online that said, my concern is access to the loop trail during construction or upgrades. Will the loop trail still be accessible during this time? Additionally, I would recommend that the title of baseball field be removed as it is not safe for others using the area if an actual baseball game using a hard ball is being played. Perhaps a better name for the current use would be sports field as it is multi-use.
Very well noted. Yes. Then we can answer, how do we want to answer the online questions? We can post later. but
Yeah, we
meeting
can-
minutes, I think would be.
Just so everybody kind of hears what the question is, and or the comment, and then we can go back and address them.
I have a quick question, so, just in terms of context. I was under the impression this was a project that is funded and that will begin construction in the spring of this spring. And so I was just looking for some, details in terms of, timing of these, of this design, because I guess I I was under the misunderstanding that this was already, it was, in process to begin construction in the very near future.
This is a fast track project. This is really the first step. The next step for us is to take your information, your feedback, your input, and then come up with options. We'll present those options in the near future. We're really looking at a bidding process in June of this year, 2026.
I'm confused. She said that, it's to begin in the spring, is that what you said? And if you're already funded, you must have construction costs and ideas what's gonna be built already.
We have funds allocated and we have a limit to that.
Let me help.
Let me start.
Fund for,
Interesting.
So this project was is designed to improve our athletic courts, which we've heard along with our athletic fields or need work. Our original intent was just to do tennis courts.
Yeah.
When we went out there and looked, we saw the basketball court needed some love. We saw that the wall ball court needs some love. And then talking to people in the park, we need to do something to improve the sand volleyball. So their intent is to look at all of those areas and then make them accessible, because we have to have accessibility. From there, our intent is to do the tennis courts first. We've got about $2 million allocated for phase one of this project. So it'll be the tennis courts, something else, and then we'll get the other ones in the next year. We may have to phase it. We may work the cycles that we can do it all at once. But our intent is to get this designed, updated, and get it construction as quick as we can in 2026.
So what I had understood was that the courts were gonna be closed at some time, for the summer, because what Wendy had said to me was that those courts were gonna be resurfaced and repaired this summer. And so I'm just trying to
Sure.
understand, because is it all on a pause so that we can go through this whole process?
no,
Or is the tennis courts?
This should be a rather simple process. Our intent is not to move anything majorly. We may have to make a little bit of agreement for accessibility. They've got specs to do the course once we kind of get some of the preliminaries. I mean, this will, like he said, this will be pretty fast. And then we'll figure out how we have to break it up. But yes, the courts will be demoed. They'll be what we did down at North Mesa. We're gonna rip them down to the ground, put in a new base, try to get rid of some of the asphalt. Looks like the post tension concrete's working well. Come back in and do that whole phasing. We threw all those in there for these guys to do, knowing that it might be a 2-year process just because of financial consideration, but the tennis court is priority one.
But so the tennis court will be completed this calendar year in 2026.
That is the very intent, because we know that the high school needs it for tennis,
Starting January
January, February for tennis, yeah.
2027.
So that is our intent, is to have it ready for that season.
Okay. Sorry, then.
Can you clarify what accessibility means in the context of sand volleyball? Because I think it's pretty straightforward for tennis, basketball, et cetera, but what do you guys, like, how are you interpreting that for a sport like sand volleyball? It is a little bit more restrictive in who can play by definition.
Absolutely. Would you?
I'll take a stab. Anything now has to have an accessible route to it. So if it has, I have to be able to park my car. And the true letter of the law is the shortest distance between where I park my car and for me to use that element. That's part of a big challenge here. Obviously on the tennis courts and the other courts, we want to make sure that they're wide enough so that you can go through the gates, because there are a large population of people that are mobility impaired that do play tennis. We do know there's some limitations to sand volleyball. We're using different apparatus in there, but we don't want to inhibit that, but we have to have a route to get to that venue. And it's also kind of cool that if there is a member of your family that wants to participate or just watch, that they can watch rather closely and not have to sit out in the parking lot, because that's the closest place that they can get.
I've lived across the street from the tennis courts for 50 years, so and I appreciate that part. I really support the idea of a new platform concrete for the tennis courts itself. I do have some concerns. The basketball court is higher than any place else. And from there, it's just straight down to Pueblo Canyon. If you're playing basketball, you miss the basket and it rolls off the court, you have to go 1.5 miles to catch it, okay? So if there was some fencing around that, that would help. Another big problem I see constantly is the parking on North Road. When the county has their annual picnics there, the park is completely surrounded with cars. And, you know, if there was ever an emergency and people had to evacuate from North Community, that's the only way out, that and Diamond, okay, for Bronco Mesa and all of it. So my suggestion is to put some parking on that lot somewhere where tennis players can have parking. And for instance, the road, the curbing and everything along North Road along North Road, when they redid it, they took out all the handicap accessible. So if people park there and somebody's handicapped, you gotta go clear down to Urban Street to get up, okay? So there's some design things. Let's see, what else did I? Okay. Complaint that I have is that one of the streetlights right by Urban Park, I know that's not within the park, but it's been out for over 2 years. I've called it several times and it still hasn't been replaced. It'd be nice because at 10 o'clock, the lights go out on the courts. Okay, and then it's dark. People still have to get to their cars and stuff. So if that light was there, it would make it convenient.
So help me out, and can you tell me exactly where that light is?
I'm sorry?
The street light, where is it at?
Street light is, right by, see the tennis courts? Okay, and there's a number there where the gate is. Right there, there's a street light right in there.
Okay.
That's been out for 2 years.
Okay.
At least.
Okay, thank you. And there's been an RV park there for years. Nice to.
It's for sale. Well, if you bought it, you could probably move it.
So I can make some comments about tennis. So I'm Greg Cunningham, captain of one of the USTA teams that plays out of Urban. So USTA is United States Tennis Association. We have leagues, teams from Los Alamos, Santa Fe, Albuquerque. In our matches, we have 5 matches at play. And I know the high school also has been kind of trying to get more courts in one place. This has been something that's been a big problem because neighbors don't want to see additional land taken up for tennis courts, and so it's been impossible to get approval to get a 5th court at Urban, so I'm assuming that's not part of this plan, which is fine. Also at Mesa, not gonna apparently do it there either. In terms of what actually gets done at Urban, I assume that you're gonna be taking out the base and you're putting in a post-tension base, so that way we don't have to maintain it every couple of years and see cracks every time we resurface it within a year or 2. This is gonna be a new base that prevents that from having to.
Hopefully the base prevents some of the larger cracks. Some of the acrylic tops that we use have a shelf life of 3 to 5 years anyway. So they have to be done every so long.
Okay. But the base that's in there now is not a post-tension base, so this will be a post-tension base.
1955.
All right. Some other things, the fencing around, is that gonna be replaced? Because, okay, that's great, and it needs to be higher quality fencing because the tennis club in Los Alamos does some of the maintenance. I don't know if Bob Nolan's here, but he's been kind of.
Oh, yeah.
Headed up. Okay. So we put up the windscreens, in spring and sometimes in fall because of the high winds, and the winds got so high that they bent the post.
Yeah.
So if we could have heavier duty posts put in, and ideally, I think have year-round windscreens put in, like you see at other tennis facilities around the state, that would be fantastic, because what we do, is kind of, as high quality as kind of we can afford, and it's, not the highest quality, so it'd be nice to have year-round windscreens put on. Some other things are at the edges of the courts, things ramp off quickly.
Yeah.
And people get injured because when they're running for a ball, it goes flat and then it goes taper. And so, if we could expand it a little bit so that we don't have that problem of people running up the court and tripping and falling into the fence, that would be fantastic. If we could afford to put separators between the courts, so balls aren't going from court to court, that would also be fantastic. That's pretty standard. Benching for people to sit at. Depending on what the budget is, having a shaded area, because it gets pretty sunny and warm in the summertime, so having an area you can sit in the shade be another really nice addition. I would really strongly prefer not to have the courts striped for pickleball. I strongly support having dedicated pickleball courts like we have at North Mesa now, and Myrtle, and the more the better for that. It's a growing sport, and I fully support that, but I really would like these courts to be dedicated for tennis, so we don't have 2 sets of lines. The bathrooms, you said that's kind of out of scope except for the walkways, but we start our season in February. And oftentimes the bathrooms aren't open. We have people driving up from Albuquerque. So if there's anything we could do to make those bathrooms accessible year round, we'd really like that. I don't know if that's possible or not.
Back to your comment about the sitting in the shade. Is that something you would envision being, some places have it on court, or some people have it right outside court? Do you or as a group, what's your thoughts on that? Do you want it on court or right outside court, or do you have a preference?
Well, yeah, it has to be, in my opinion, it has to be inside the court, inside the fence.
Okay.
I think there also needs to be, somebody that mentioned, seating. The tennis club created a little, facility there so that we could, have a little snack area for after matches and so forth. That was, I think, built by our club. Bob can correct me if I'm wrong.
No, we built.
So kind of, expanding some of those capabilities, the seating that was there, that was something that was promoted by the tennis club. So that when visitors come to watch either our teams or the high school teams, they have a place to sit. I don't know if, the high school probably gets more people watching than we do. So
I'm a high school boys coach, and yeah, that bleacher on the one end is great, but ideally it would be nice to have at least a couple of benches, like maybe, you know, down here, like on the side or something.
Yeah. You know, talking about benches and seating. Okay, the county is replacing a lot of the benches around here. Those benches, the old benches are labeled with Urban Park. They're beautiful. They've been there for 40 years. They're taking them out. They're putting these other, $1,200 benches in there. And I've got a picture of one I'll show you. It's been there less than 2 years. It's peeling all over, okay? Falling apart. Those old benches are wonderful. And if you see between the road here and the sidewalk, this is just a natural place where benches could be. They're above ground to see the court, and you can see all the work there and have access. Probably,
Yeah, that'd be nice.
it would be good to reserve this area here for school buses when the kids come in from other towns. They can park there, they can have seating along here and view the courts easily. So that's where I think, because it's raised above the courts, it's wonderful place for seating.
Yes, ma'am, you had a comment?
Oh, I was just gonna say, so a lot of us are here
Huh?
for tennis. And a big reason why this is such a focal point for tennis is because it is the only lit courts in Los Alamos on the hill. It's also the place that the kids practice. You know, we've been here for 30 years. This has been talked about for 25. Our kids were in the high school. They're all grown and have their own kids now. And we were talking about the same types of issues. So it's been a really long time, and the idea of being able to focus on this, I think, is very good and important. But I think too, we keep starting from, I can't tell you how many of these meetings we sat through, where we start from square one. Let me explain to you about a tennis court, blah, blah, blah. So the fact is, there's been a lot of work already done. And so to be able to pull that out and not have to start from scratch each time, I think would be great. My last comment is just gonna be, getting input from us is great because we have more local, but go down to Jerry Klein in Albuquerque and look at what a real, and it's an Albuquerque court. It is not a private club. It is Albuquerque City and their courts. And they are built how they're supposed to be. You can look at how they're supposed to be with the separators between them, the fence, the type of, fencing that they have, all of that, and see how it's supposed to be done. And use that as your template, and then we can customize it for us. But it sounds like, same thing with shade in sitting on a bench. There's a very standard thing where there's a bench with a little shade thing over it that is on almost every tennis court everywhere else in this that we've ever played. So start with that. Go look at what the standards are, and then come back and say, how can we make this fit for Los Alamos?
I would just echo what she said. I don't know if you're planning on contracting the same people who did the North Mesa courts, but there are definitely some like non-standard issues with that court that would probably be problematic for like high school or like UST occasional matches. So having, standardized tennis regulations for rebuilding these courts, would be great.
Just a couple comments from online. Can you just reiterate, what is your budget and schedule for making the physical improvements?
We'd like to have it under contract in June, and it's $2 million right now.
The Deer Impact Plant area is a winter sledding area for smaller children. This is an area that doesn't drop sledding children into the street. I'm not quite sure where that is.
There is no intent to work on those hills.
Okay.
Actually, it's to the north of the tennis courts, right by the south of the volleyball pit. That's where they sled.
There's stadium seating in upper left hand of tennis courts. I would love to see updates to the sand volleyball court. Is there any chance it could have lighting installed as well? We have lighted tennis courts in LA and White Rock, so I just wanted to ask if lights on the volleyball court would be a possibility. Thanks. That's what I got from
I just was curious, like, if you look at this, overhead map. And, you know, we had talked about an extra court for the men's league and for the high school team would be really helpful. It almost looks like you could get one extra court right here, just looking at it. I know it's not perfectly flat. And it almost looks like you could get another here. Is that any possibility to be examined?
This has been examined about every 4 years, and
Yeah.
they do a massive county fight. I mean, the expansion of urban park is in Tennessee.
Now, I can tell you that
Western area as well.
there was a pretty robust process 3 years ago about creating a tournament quality tennis court complex, and it died. Almost a $10 million investment, and it died on the vine. That was
Over 5 million.
Yeah, so,
I think, I don't know why
$8
it was so
million.
expensive, I mean.
It was
They
all,
the county spent 150K to come on the plan for that, and it came back with $5 million for 6 courts and a bathroom.
correct, yeah.
And I talked to people down at, ECA in Albuquerque. They're getting, I think it's 2 courts and 8 pickleball courts for 700K.
Yeah, there is a premium to do business in Los Alamos, but unfortunately, I can tell you exists, and it's a premium that I used to be able to do tennis courts, get a double court with, entire fence and bleachers for $375 total, and those days are long gone.
It doesn't matter who you contract with, it's.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
When you say $2 million by starting in June, is that just for the tennis court phase, or is that for the other additional phases you're looking at?
I have 2 million now to get started, and I'll get another million in, July 1st that we could factor in something else if we need to.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna get him, and I'll come back.
What are the chances you can spare 50K to redo the volleyball court? Cause you know, the complexity of doing the tennis court, you got concrete and everything. The volleyball court, you just have to pull out sand, just some new sand, put up a net, that would benefit our community a lot, just like 50K.
There's accessibility, and I can tell,
Does it not mean accessibility right now?
no,
Why not?
because of the distance between the loop trail to the actual pit. It's not right there, so you have to have an access route that goes actually to the pit.
And just to demonstrate a little bit on accessibility here, marked in these red arrows. And these are major access points into the park. They are not accessible. They are too steep by code.
But the sand volleyball court is part of this. Once we get the pricing back, we can have this conversation. If you guys tell us that sand volleyball court is more important than the basketball court, we'll take that feedback as well.
You may have already discussed this and I missed it, but, the Ramada there, that was replaced and re-roofed a few years back. It's nice. But I get the impression from one of the pictures up there that that's gonna be taken out. Is that right? That would be remaining?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. Second thing, I can't remember the street number, 42nd, I guess, around there. If you look all of that around, there's a whole row of parking along the street. And that is public land, right, that shows that parking there? Could that be expanded easily? There's probably 25 or 30 parking spots there now. If that could be expanded, I mean, people come to the park for exercise, so they really could park there and walk up to the tennis court, I think. Or to one of the basketball courts easily. And, that would provide, and then maybe restrict the stuff on North Road as far as parking.
But those are all good points to look at, and that's part of their job is to figure out.
I'm gonna show you something, and maybe it's off limits, but we went through this before. One of the complaints from the people around the community is that parking of buses taking up so much space. And everybody else, their families coming in behind it. Is there any way that you could come in down here and to here and put a place in here for putting in the buses? Just let them come in and park in there.
We can look at it. I know there's a pretty steep curve there. I don't know what the
No,
mitigation
it's
is.
pretty well gone from about right here. The grade really drops off fast right in here.
We can look at it.
Yeah.
I can't say for buses, usually it doesn't turn out to be an issue, cause we just ask the bus driver to
Go park
go
it somewhere.
park somewhere else, you know, so usually they'll just go over to the high school and park.
Well, if they can at least look at it for buses, maybe they put cars in there.
Yeah, yeah, more parking is always good.
Yeah.
So what code are you referencing that when you have to like redo something,
Accessibility.
make it accessible? Cause you can do that accessibility in phase 2 to the park.
No,
You can still,
unfortunately, in 2010, the ADA accessibility Title II kicked in that covered all recreational facilities. The original one in 1998 covered public walkways, roadways, sidewalks. And they really updated it. And that's why you see now, anything that we touch has to be accessible, as well as there's the building code of the most recent code for the last 10 years has had that it must be built to ADA specifications. There's a little wiggle room when you get into the wilderness area. But yeah, anything that we actually build now that we touch has to be thought of as ADA accessibility.
So just so I'm understanding, everything that is touched or renewed has to meet the new requirements of safety and accessibility. And right now, we don't meet those because it's being grandfathered in. But as soon as we touch it to renovate it, it needs to be brought up to code.
Halfway, yes. Part of the problem too is we're finding, we did a large ADA audit and transition plan that you can see on our website. We have a lot of facilities that are not accessible. In fact, when we did the tennis court at North Mesa, that right now technically is the only one that meets accessibility standard in its one court. So as we touch these, we are bound by federal law as well as state law that we have to make these improvements. We get a little wiggle room, but yeah.
But that includes steepness, like distance, a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah, there's elevation changes. You can't have more than 5% on a running slope, 2.5% on a cross slope. It has to be an accessible surface. So just putting down like pea gravel is not an accessible surface. It's got to be able to roll. If on the other side of your sidewalk, you have a drop off of more than 4 inches or 6 inches.
Yeah.
You have to have a bump curb or a barrier. I mean, it's all cool stuff that nobody thought about unless you were disabled.
Yeah.
And what we want to do is make sure that we're inviting to those that, may be less fortunate. And a lot of our community are finding it out as we get older and have to have our hips replaced and our knees replaced. Because I can tell you, we got one lady that thought this was silly until she had her hip replaced and she couldn't walk our trails. And we actually built a trail that, not for her, but about the time she had it. And she loved it, and she's one of our biggest advocates now for having something. So again, it's just making sure anyone in our community that has a desire to participate can participate.
Well, comments? Does that mean that no updates or repairs can be made to the volleyball court unless it is also made accessible?
That's part of this process, yes.
so you're not counting the car entry on the top right? Top right.
Top right, where it says Urban Street.
The top middle of the.
Nine.
Yeah. That's a car entry pretty flat.
Yeah.
Does that count as an ADA compliant?
It does for the loop trail, and that gets you to the loop trail. The challenge is, once you get to this point, you can't get to the tennis courts.
So you got the volleyball court.
Volleyball specifically.
The volleyball is right there off.
Right.
Yeah, but that could be a point. But that would also have to be modified, because right now it's just almost wide enough for a car. It has to be wide enough, if I only have one, it has to be for van accessible, which is,
So is it ADA compliant or not, need 13?
right now, no,
Not where we live here.
no, right now it's not.
But that's more because of the access from the trail to the actual volleyball courts, right?
But actually, you can't pull an accessible van into that spot and open the door, lay out the accessible platform and get off of there and get onto a surface that you can get around. You can park your car there for mobile, walk around and pull your gear out, but it has to be wide enough. If you only have one, it's gotta be wide enough to be van accessible. And the vans typically have an articulating arm that comes out that a wheelchair would sit in and is laid down, which is another 4 to 6 feet. Then they gotta have turning radius and so.
So how much would it cost to put another like? And keep the concrete there for that?
Part of their conversation, these are great points that you're bringing up that we can look at as points. Again, part of the conversation is what's our priority? We know the tennis courts really needs to be done. How would we like to get it done so we can go in and do the courts over at Western area next? Or Barranca's pretty bad too. But eventually, eventually, at some point in time, this entire park will fully be accessible to the playground and everything.
Sorry to ask one more time, so just so we're all on the same page, obviously, a lot of things we want to do with this park, as of right now, what is being proposed to do with the 2 million that they're hoping that will cover, at least as of right now, what's the first step?
Well, ideally, it would be the tennis courts,
So resurfacing.
Paramount and rebuilding.
Oh, from scratch.
New courts, new fencing, whatever that footprint looks like. Have an accessible route to those courts. The basketball court, the wall ball court, or whatever you want to call
The
it.
wall that's there to practice for where.
You know, there's wall ball, that can be handball and all that. Those are all,
Wall with.
yeah. And then the sand volleyball court. Based on what we did at North Mesa and East Park, I can probably get the tennis courts first, and then I'll have more money later to do the rest of the phase.
Okay, so theoretically, the 2 million is to get the court started, up to code, completely redone. Foundation, everything, not just resurfacing, and then the extra 1 million will be to finish off the accessory stuff, like the basketball court and the volleyball court.
Right, and part of this conversation can be, I'd rather have you gotta prioritize those other things. I want the sand volleyball court done first, but the basketball court second. You can tell us that as well. Go, let's go.
I'm ready to tell you that.
Let me guess.
Hi, my name is Morgan Boris. I'm part of the volleyball community here in town. I just want to do a roll call for the folks in the room who might be here from volleyball as well, to show our support. This is, something that we cherish. We also want to acknowledge that we are very grateful for the 4 incoming courts on the North Mesa side. So I'm speaking on behalf of most folks in my group, not everybody, so feel free to disagree, that we feel 1 court is substantial here. And we would greatly appreciate the quality of the court replicating, what is currently at Rover, that has held up exceptionally well over the years. And I would like to claim the number 2 priority spot after tennis.
Duly noted.
Yeah.
I want to add to what Morgan had said. I think one of the benefits to the sand volleyball court, when it's built well like Rover was, I believe that was built maybe 10 years ago. The only maintenance that really needs, aside from, making sure kids aren't putting rocks and other stones and treating it as a sandbox, which is a separate issue, but also important for player safety, is, it's basically maintenance free. The nets maybe need to get replaced because of the sun damage every 3 or 4 years, but that's a couple $100 expense. So a $50,000 investment in a court that can last 10 or 20 years, I think, is a spectacular return and value added to the community for people that use it. And I'm not trying to put down tennis courts and the cost of those, but it's really, it's kind of apples and oranges compared of how much more affordable a sand volleyball court is an investment compared to tennis courts.
Sure. I'm surprised you guys don't want better sand. That is part of the request we've heard loud and clear on.
Yeah, so I will say the court at Rover, like I travel in-state, out-of-state for sand volleyball tournaments, and the sand quality at Rover is, I'd say, the best of any of the courts I've played at in the state of New Mexico. So having that here would be a nice thing.
I didn't, go ahead. I didn't tell my name earlier, when I got a Bob Nolan and the tennis club, and 7-8 years ago, I proposed to get rid of the practice court and get our one court put there. It went nowhere. I'm just wondering though, for those who are in here, if we could come up with another option for a practice area, would you support getting rid of that and putting a new court there with a fence around it? Well, mean lights, but not at least the proposal, I would say. But how many use the practice court enough that you would not want to do that?
When you say practice court, is that, concrete structure?
The handball.
We're talking about?
Yes. Just the old handball.
And there's another way to design that, like we did over at North Mesa with those new courts, that we can actually put a wall at one end or the other that you can practice that way versus having, you still have a full court.
Yeah.
You want to play.
Yeah.
That would be ideal, really.
Yeah.
Okay.
At least get one court, and maybe somewhere down the road we get another one, I don't know. I've had so many proposals at that place, I can't tell you, but.
You can put it where the volleyball court is.
I have a proposal.
This is going pretty good. All friends of mine here.
I think, sorry, I just am going back to what you were talking about for the other proposal that have come forward. And I just wanted to say, at that time, we had a mailing list of like 200 people. And it was supposed to be on the docket in front of council as its own issue. You know, let's talk about the tennis courts and how to make sure that everybody was happy in all the different neighborhoods and what we could do to fix that and talk about the new proposal. That was actually, we had everybody ready to go that day, including the pickleballers who were supporting as well. And then it was pulled from the docket. It was actually pulled as, and said, nope, sorry, we're not gonna get to that today. They did not reschedule it as a separate issue. They stuck it in the budget on a day that nobody knew, and it went ahead and there was discussion with nobody there. So that's why there wasn't any feedback for, you know, from the community for the plan that you guys had come up with last time.
Yeah.
Because we didn't know. Literally, we didn't know. There was a whole group, there was like 50 people ready to go and make their wishes known. And then when it was taken off the docket and put into the budget, and it just kind of slid through on the budget, that they said, no, we're not gonna spend that, we're gonna spend it over here. So that's why you didn't get that kind of feedback. And so when this moves forward, especially if there's gonna be any more changes, please make sure it's public and that we have the opportunity to give you feedback.
Well, this is the opportunity. This will also be, at a threshold that council will have to sign off on the bid, so you'll have, and then this will be at a park board meeting prior to us going to council, so you'll have plenty of opportunities. They're gonna give you cards, I've got cards if you want.
I can sheet back here.
Yeah, go give us your emails, we'll keep that up and keep you abreast of what's going on here.
Is there any opportunity of updating the sand volleyball courts earlier? I know it's a big hit in the summer with the summer students, and you know, they can't really play anymore because the sand has degraded so much in the last.
And there's no net.
And there's no net.
The net will show up, but it's part of this. Well, it's more than that.
Like people are wearing shoes now.
We need to improve the drainage for that court too. So there's gotta be some, it's basically gonna have to be scraped, come back in, put the drainage in, make sure it goes out. So it's a little more than buying 10 or 15 trucks of sand. So that's why we wanna look at it. Also, there was a question one time about the orientation, does it need to move direction? I don't think I've heard that, but a few other people. But again, we knew it was important because originally this was just gonna be a tennis court. So we actually put that in there knowing that there was a lot of interest that needed to be updated as well.
If we're gonna displace them. If everything's crowded in there and, one more tennis court is going to displace the use by the little kids I see out there playing and their families.
Yeah. Yeah, those are important things to, if you know that's a current high training area that needs to be that way, but again, there's, if you want a training area, we can do a training area. It may not look the same, but we can do it. Now, I don't know how many people here actually play handball or squash anymore here. I don't know if it's because we don't have a quality facility that's degraded, or if it's just not popular. I was in Southern Florida for a while, and man, they had like 500 people that played at this one little park that had 6 little handball courts, so.
I don't think I've ever seen anybody play handball there, but people practice tennis against it all the time.
Before they.
And you occasionally see somebody throwing a lacrosse ball against it, or
Actually does.
a baseball, something like that, yeah.
Use.
Yes, sir.
Do you think you'll end up with the same contractor that did the ones in North Mesa?
We competitively bid these based on qualifications. That's a local vendor that likes to bid on a lot of stuff. That's about all I can say, right? It'd be,
There's a piece of the court that's already come. I think you've seen that. It's about 1 inch by 4 inches. Already coming up. I mean, it hasn't even been.
at North Mesa on the tennis court or the pickleball?
It's on the tennis court.
Okay, I'll go look at it.
Corey, there's also no tie down strap on that net. They did not put a hole.
Yeah.
Be able to put a tie down. It just goes straight across like this. Well. You don't
Yeah, it
play
needs
tennis on that.
definitely needs a strap in the middle of the net. I mean,
Okay,
I was expecting that to show up, and I don't know why the park benches are on the opposite side. I mean, unless you're trying to keep
Yeah.
players
In the corner.
separated.
For the hand
In the corner.
And there are these gaps. It's nice, practice wall is great, I like it, but there's a gap every time I play there, the ball goes.
Yeah, that's what I was told.
make
But
sure,
it's-
make
it's
sure we get these notes
Yeah.
as improvements to what we're doing. Yes, sir.
Is somebody gonna put the notes up so we can see the notes?
Steve's been writing
I've
over
been
here.
writing them down, and you guys will also have an opportunity
Yeah.
to come up and write your own notes and your own
And if you'd rather do
suggestions.
that, then
Yeah.
we can look at each board and talk.
Can I get on an email list where you can like send us the notes so we can make sure everything got captured or?
It'd be good.
Yes.
I think I'd just like to vocalize it more clearly for, with this one volleyball court here, because I think this is a lessons learned moment from playing down at Rover. As I said, the sand down there's nice, which means not only do volleyball players like it, but kids like playing in it, which is okay. But I mean, we've had people get injured from landing on like kind of unseen debris, stuff like rocks, other things, spoons that have been brought into the sand. And I think if there's any way to get a sand box or sand pit separate from the volleyball court added to urban, if there's space for that, I don't know what that would look like. And then kind of equivalent signage added for the sand volleyball court to note that this is for the sport of volleyball, not for your 4-year-old to, play construction.
Playground is sad.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
playground is all sad.
There's been people who let their dogs dig at the rover court, and we've landed in the holes that weren't really filled in before. And I know that's like more of just a sign and hope.
We have issues with that. If you've been there recently, the deer like to congregate and they've been fertilizing that park heavily and that's kind of a challenge too. Yeah, some of those things are just a little bit beyond our control.
Yeah, I think signage would be good for that, 'cause I mean, a lot of us, when we go to play, like, I have a rake and like, I will do work on the court, prepare it for play. But there's just some things that could, speed it along and just give us a little bit more to show like, hey, this is for a sport, this isn't
Sure.
for.
Sure, we can put the signs up and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Can one of the people from the high school speak to, how much volleyball is growing, in the high school right now? just to emphasize that it's a growing sport in the community.
Yeah,
Or
sandball
you guys just
specifically?
playing it in tennis, that's okay.
I mean, I know, I'm a high school coach and teacher, and I know we do have a big volleyball community. I don't know how much they play beach volleyball, but I would assume they do. Yeah, so I know they have a boys team now, but I don't know a lot about it, sorry.
So let's do a little transition here. Why don't you come up? You got some great feedback. Come up here and look and see if you got any more ideas or thoughts or questions that may come up to you as you get a closer look. We'll be here to take those comments and try to answer any questions that you have. And then make sure that you do sign out so we can keep you abreast. And then you can also follow up. We have a Resources Department projects page that all the projects we're undertaking right now. You can go there and see where we're at, what's going on. Okay,
Nice.
thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.